So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you may be. Watching this, once again, welcome to the channel. I'm Bowler Hatman, and we talk about bits and pieces of British politics that just happen to be going on at the time. That was attempted an intro. Haven't done one of those for a while, but never mind. We'll maybe try and improve it for next time. But I saw this today, as you can see, on Twitter from a guy called Richard Murphy. Richard Murphy is sort of a very sort of big political sort of commentating guy on Twitter, where you can see he asked the question, who broke Britain? Or do you think they all did? And that it's been 13 years of planned destruction from the Tories. And of course, the options you have are George Osborne, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, and Liz Truss. As you can see, I've got the what were at the time the current polls. And as you can see, Boris Johnson leading it very, very clearly, then followed by George Osborne, then Liz Truss, then Theresa May. Now, I think he has given people a get out, because I hate sometimes where you give people a multiple choice, say pick one, and then go, but you can pick all of them. And it's like, no. If you're going to give people a multiple choice, do not give them an option where they can pick all of them. Because trust me, I write surveys for people in marketing all the time, and I have to say to everyone, whenever I'm looking at surveys, anything like that, if you want a definitive answer from people, always make them pick a definitive answer. And if you are going to say, well, pick all of them, then you have to at least pick a reason why. And to be honest, don't get me wrong, if you do think it's all of them, it's 13 years of planned destruction, fine, excellent, crack on. However, today I'm making you I am forcing you to choose. You don't get an opt out with me. You've got to pick one. So no get outs from me this time. I'm watching you in the chat, in the comments down below. So you've been warned. No get outs. You only get one choice. So before we go into, I think, the choices, and I think, and I'll give you mine, don't worry, at the end, who I think is certainly most responsible. We'll quickly go over sort of who is responsible, or at least why these people are here. But before we do that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, there are links to the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So, names. Who's on this name? Now, many people, I think, will be a bit confused. Why isn't Cameron, but Osborne is? Now, I think he could have made, if he wanted to do a Cameron / Osborne, but to be honest, from what we know, Osborne was the driver for austerity. Like, Osborne was the principal driver for austerity. And it has been really, the problems that we are experiencing today all come from the decisions made by George Osborne, going all the way back to the original Tory Lib Dem coalition. So ultimately, yeah, I think Osborne has his place on there. Now, could you get away with a Cameron Osborne pick? Potentially so. I wouldn't be too annoyed if it was sort of Cameron Osborne. I think they deserve certainly a lot of blame when it comes to this. Next up, we got Theresa May. And I will always maintain this. I do not like Theresa May, but I do have a lot of sympathy for her because she was handed a poison chalice. No one really wanted this job post Cameron. Everyone knew it was going to be an absolute disaster, potentially even career ending. And Theresa May tried her best, but she tried to please everyone. And unfortunately, as We learned you cannot please everyone. But we came close. We really did come close. And unfortunately, it was the hardcore Brexiteers who took her down. Now, if Theresa May had decided, I am going to stand my ground and take on these hardcore Brexiteers, maybe we wouldn't have had such a hard Brexit. We wouldn't have had the disaster of a withdrawal deal that we ended up with. But that's why Theresa May is on the list. And what blame could you say that Theresa May has for being on this list? Well, certainly during her time at the Home Office, she is seemingly the one most responsible for really where we are. After all, it went Theresa May, Liz Truss, Priti Patel, Suella Braverman. And this harsh environment all started under Theresa May. It was Theresa May primarily responsible for, in conjunction really with Osborne, for defunding the asylum system, which has led primarily to the current disaster of a situation where it is in at the moment. Then, of course, we get on to Boris Johnson. And yeah, Boris Johnson's Brexit deal, absolute disaster, will be affecting and continuing to affect the UK for quite some time to come. Boris Johnson ultimately probably going to go down as one of the potentially worst prime ministers in all of history. And then, of course, you get onto Liz Truss, really the worst British prime minister in all of history. Not only the most shortest lived British prime minister in all of history, because, like I say, the other ones who have a shorter time in office died. So, you know, ultimately, obviously, Theresa May's experiment in Trussonomics crashed the economy, almost destroyed the British pension industry, led to rapid rises of inflation, which we are still suffering from today. So now you ask the question, well, you're forcing us to choose, so we're going to force you to choose as well. So you might say, Bowler Hatman, who is the most responsible out of these people? Well, ultimately, I will always make the case it's George Osborne. George Osborne is ultimately responsible for pushing austerity, and the problems that we face today all stem from those decisions that George Osborne made when he was Chancellor. Everything of that austerity, which then led to sort of people sort of wanting Brexit, being under the sort of delusion that if we had Brexit and we did Brexit, that everything would be magically better, which again led to Boris Johnson, led to sort of Liz Truss. It's Osborne. Osborne, ultimately, I do believe, is the person who broke Britain. And that is my argument. That is my reasoning. Do you agree with me? Let me know down below. If you think it was Theresa May, Boris Johnson, or Liz Truss, let me know down below. Do you think it's someone else who's not on this list? Like I say, let me know in the comments down below. But as always, thank you very much for joining me today. And as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button before you leave. And as always, we'll see you all next time.